All right, we are live. We're just going to wait a minute or so for everyone to come in, and then we'll get this kicked off. All right, so it's 10:02. So my name is Andy. Welcome everyone for joining. I'm Andy from The Answer Company. I'll be hosting this webinar today. Before we start, I just want to go through a few housekeeping items. So this webinar, it will be recorded, and the link to this recording will be sent out afterwards. So you can revisit this content later on. Please keep your microphones muted during the presentation. We do have a chat on the right-hand side for questions. And then on the right-hand side as well, there's a files tab that you can access. And then at the end of the presentation, we'll have a small Q&A with our speaker. And today we have Vaughn from Netstock. So I'll pass it over to you.
Thanks a lot. I'm just going to share my screen. I'll take over from there if I can. Okay, great. So yes, my name is Vaughn Proctor. I'm from a company called Netstock. And we are a business really focused on small and medium-sized businesses and empowering those businesses to be able to plan better through volatile supply chain. I've been with the business for over 10 years. It was originally a South African business, and hence the accent. But we've been present in the US for almost as long. And we have probably just over 2,200 customers worldwide, of which the majority is in America. So today I'm going to talk a little bit, that's why I've got the doctor's coat on, about the health of your inventory and how to keep your inventory in shape and how we can assist with that. Right, so the agenda for today, we're going to talk about a plague of disruption and the reasons why companies are struggling so much with inventory planning, contributing factors to bad inventory health, why these things are happening, the symptoms that we can recognize to see whether our business is actually doing well and how good our inventory health is. We're going to talk a little bit about a treatment plan, which Netstock will provide for customers so that we can go on a journey together to increase the health of your inventory and have a more profitable business. And then also treatment outcomes, we'll touch a little bit on that, and then we'll have some time for Q&A at the end where you can quiz me on anything, and hopefully I'll have the right answers for you. So without wasting any more time, I'm going to get to it. The first thing we're going to talk about is the plague of disruption. Now, since COVID, which was what we call a black swan event, probably the biggest black swan event ever to hit supply chain, there have been multiple events, socioeconomic events, events with tankers like the one that we see there in the picture that was quite recent. A whole bunch of stuff that's happening all over the world is creating disruption in the supply chain. Now that specific tanker and the bridge that came down affected mostly certain areas of business, specifically the motor industry, motor spares industry, agriculture, all of that type of stuff. But one of the telling things that came out of that was that they reported that it was really the smaller and medium-sized businesses that were going to struggle the most from that disruption, and not the bigger businesses, because the bigger businesses typically have holding more inventory, in different places, can move things around, or holding enough to be able to mitigate the risk of these type of things. Whereas smaller businesses that don't have the resources and don't have the cash to do that aren't able to do that, and those are the ones that are suffering the most. Yes, that only affected certain parts of business, but at the same time, the droughts in Panama are affecting the Panama Canal and being able to move goods through the Panama Canal, and also at the same time, the issues in Gaza are affecting the Suez Canal, and a lot of ships, as we know, have been having to reroute around the bottom of Africa, actually around South Africa, where I come from, to get to the US. So there's a lot of disruption, a lot of stuff happening all the time that we need to deal with. Right. So the supply is one part of supply chain disruption, but there also are things like demand disruption, things that are caused by rising costs, creating increased stockouts, longer lead times, as we said, from those disruptions, rapidly changing demand patterns, and then also labor shortages. And labor shortages is something quite unique now to the US and America. But all of these things have an effect on the supply chain and disrupt the supply chain. Now, for the most part, that the supply chain disruption is a risk that we need to calculate. And unfortunately, most people are trying to do this planning in ERP, and there is plenty of functionality in ERP to start helping with inventory levels and planning. But a lot of people are still using information out of the ERP, putting that into spreadsheet when it comes to forecasting, trying to track lead times, all of that type of stuff. Now, the ERP and spreadsheets, as much as in the combination, using those two in combination might be as effective as you can be, the one thing that neither of those things do is calculate risk. And that's one of the most important things to be able to calculate when you're trying to understand what the optimal or healthy inventory level should be for your business. What is the optimal health that your inventory needs to be at? And that's really what Netstock does. We take risk into consideration when calculating what those inventory levels should be, and we automate all the processes that people are trying to do in the ERP and spreadsheets. And I'll show you a little bit about that in our treatment plan. Okay. So what are the symptoms? Most customers are seeing that they have plenty of stockouts, and obviously you're losing business. That's not good. Less profitable. At the same time, there's still significant excess. And this is one of the things that we found with our customers that is specifically a problem right now because of the cost of holding inventory right now, obsolescence and inflation, all of those things. Holding stock is one of the biggest issues or biggest symptoms that we see with our customers. And then a time that you spend on placing orders and poor forecasting accuracy. Those things go hand in hand, and typically those things are done in those spreadsheets that are very time-consuming and cumbersome. And by the time that people have gotten to the point where they've made a decision about what to buy, when to buy, and how much to buy, things have changed in the supply chain. So we need to be dynamic, and we need to be quick in creating those orders. Right. So those are the symptoms, and you might be dealing with these symptoms in your business as well. And that's really what we're looking at. The treatment plan is to enhance current ERP functionality that there is in Acumatica. And Acumatica's got fantastic functionality when it comes to inventory control and giving us the information we require to be able to plan better. We want to supply powerful yet intuitive software, and you'll see when I go through the treatment plan, it's very visual, it's very purpose-built, and it's very focused on the inventory planning and creating ROI in the business as quickly as possible. We want to provide visibility and exception management. Again, it's the 80-20 rule, and we have that inside the application all the time. Where are the biggest issues in inventory? Because we can't manage everything with the same gusto. We don't have enough time or big enough teams to be able to do that. So can we focus on the items that are the most important to us and be effective with those items? Education through Netstock Learning Academy. We have a built-in learning academy in the application. You can have Netstock accreditation that you can go through, and we have learning paths that users can go through to become better planners through the application. We provide exceptional onboarding support and an onboarding process and support afterwards that we do through the application, and a very strict proven process that we go through to get people onboarded and get to a point of value as quickly as possible. It's a very quick installation and onboarding process in comparison to an ERP, obviously, but our focus really is on getting to a point of value as quickly as possible and creating that ROI for the business. And then also securing data, which is one of the most important things in cloud applications these days is to make sure that we secure our customers' data, and they don't have to worry about their data going all over the place. So that's really the treatment plan at a high level. I'm then going to talk about what our treatment plan is in the application, and we're going to take a look at that in the application and see how we do that. So a couple of things that we want to have a look at here. How do we increase visibility and increase focus on the areas that are most important to the business, and through that improve the fill rates and improve your availability of items and increase your sales. Optimize inventory to calculate the optimal inventory. To do that, ensuring that we don't tie up too much cash in inventory that we could be using elsewhere or could be sitting in the bank and working better for us, right? Efficient ordering. So we want to make sure that you're able to place orders at a touch of a button, and that we do all the heavy lifting on the calculations and the forecasting and the policies and all of that type of stuff, so that we can just give you an order at a touch of a button. You can review that and you can send that through to your supplier to ensure that we get those items there as quickly as possible. And then all of that is driven by accurate forecasting. The more accurate the forecast is, the better the planning is, and it all starts there with accurate forecasting. So we have a forecasting engine that'll automatically forecast every single item at every location. You don't have to try and figure that out in a spreadsheet with a moving average and percentage increase and all the type of calculations that happen in that spreadsheet. We will continuously look for the best fit forecast we can find and reforecast on those items so that we can be as effective as possible with that forecasting. And also we track those forecasts to ensure that they're effective. All right, so let's have a look at what that looks like, what that treatment plan would look like in the application. The first thing I'm going to show is the dashboards. When you log into the application, as I said, we want to go and pull that information from Acumatica. We want to analyze that information, and we want to give you insights into what it is that you can do. Now, the first three KPIs at the top there are all about your stock holding. We can see that we started over there. This is a benchmark 5 months ago. We had $10.8 million worth of inventory, and our model or our healthy inventory level was 5.5. We then track that as we go along month by month to where we are today, which is 8.7 million with a model of 5.4. So both of those are dynamic. They change, right? Your model levels change dynamically, and they're not static. So you don't have static min-max levels that have been around for 3 years. We will adjust those based on risk factors and safety stock calculations. So the model might change based on where we are in the year and what's happening with the items. The inventory levels have come down by 20%, which is great, way more healthy than they were at the 10.8, but we're not quite at the 5.4. We want to have a look at the symptoms that are causing that. Well, we can see that there's excess inventory. Well, we started there with 5.7 million. We're down to 2.8. That's a huge decrease in excess inventory. But again, we still have 2,000 odd items that are in excess, and we're tying up $2.8 million that we could be using elsewhere. Again, we want to focus on the top items, the top offenders in my top 5 list. I can go into a full report there, but we're not going to go through 2,000 items. We really want to focus on the items that have the biggest effect. And if we can release that cash back into the business, we can invest it in other places. We also want to do preventative measures to ensure that we don't increase the stock out problem. So how do we prevent future stock outs from happening? Well, we'll analyze your orders and show you where there's surplus orders, where you're ordering more than what's required based on the model stock that we calculated, and that's going to increase inventory if it lands. So can we do something about these items before they land and mitigate an excess increase of another 700,000 over there? So preventative measures to ensure that our health of our inventory is where it needs to be and closer to that model stock of 5.4. We're also going to look at your fill rates. So we can see that our fill rates, we started again 5 months ago at just under 80% with a target of 94. Those are our optimal target that we're trying to get to, the optimal health that we're trying to reach. And we can see how that's tracked month to month. That's definitely increased a bit, dropped a little bit in the last month over there, but we're sitting at just under 87%, a 9% increase in availability. And that's really good results. 20% reduction with a 9% increase in availability is pretty good. But we're targeting 96. We still got a bit of work to do. How can we focus on increasing those availability rates to ensure that we get closer to our target? Well, we were at 1.6 million worth of Stockouts 5 months ago, that's decreased immensely, 57% down, but still another 700,000 that we're calculating in lost sales based on these 1,000 odd items that are stocked out at the moment. Again, we're going to focus on the top 5. We won't get through 1,000 items, but which are the top items that we can try and fix now to ensure that our health is better and that we increase revenue in the business. And again, preventative, we're looking at your purchase orders. We're saying, well, you've got inventory now, but we see that those purchase orders are coming in too late based on the demand. Perhaps there's been a spike in demand, and we see a window period where these 113 items are going to stock out in the future, and potentially there's going to be another 160,000, just under 160,000 worth of lost sales. Can we do something about expediting these now to ensure that we don't increase future stockouts as well? So not only are we looking at the existing symptoms and trying to fix those, but we're also creating preventative measures to ensure that we don't increase that in the future. And as I said, very purpose-built. If we work our way through these top 5 every day or every week or whenever we do, we'll start chipping away at this and we'll get closer to what our model levels are. So there's my symptoms that are showing up, the analysis that we're doing. The lab tests have gone out to Acumatica, and we've come back with the results on what this business is doing and how healthy it is at the moment. So we're looking at those things like excess, we're looking at stockouts, but we also want to be able to, as I said, create those purchase orders as quickly as possible. So the first thing I want to have a look at, and as I said, this all starts with a forecast. So I'm going to move into one of these items, just at an item level. It's going to be very detailed, but let's look at this number 2 over here, which is my second highest potential stock out item, and just show you how we've created these treatment plans for every single item at every location that we then roll up to a global level that you saw there in the dashboards, right? So a lot of detail here from Acumatica. We're going to be pulling things like your cost and selling price, weight and volume, so that we can help you with that as well. If that is in Acumatica, we can pull that in. Stock on hand units, obviously we want to see how many units we have. We're going to calculate the value. We're going to see the supplier that we're purchasing it from, and we're going to bring in any groupings there as well, right? Then what we're going to do, and you can see at the bottom over here, is we're going to pull in the historical information from Acumatica. So depending how many years you've been on Acumatica, we also have ways of calculating new items, items that are superseding, all of that type of stuff as well. This item's been around for a couple of years. We can see there from 4 years ago, sales history over there, and we've created our forecast 12 months going forward. Of course, we can adjust that forecast. We give you the ability to go in and adjust that forecast. So let's say we want to increase that by, 20% because we know that, or 15% because we know that there's going to be, a new customer coming on that's going to be buying a lot more of these items, or whatever it is. We are also able to go and adjust those or influence those. We can do specific months if we want to, or we can do a percentage or a unit uptake, whatever it is, to adjust those forecasts as well. So not only do we create more accurate forecast, we give you the ability to add your market knowledge into that as well. So that's the first thing we want to do, forecasting. And that's going to be the first thing that drives our safety stock calculation, because obviously how much we're going to sell in the future will determine how much inventory we need to hold. So that's the first factor. The second factor is a target fill rate. The higher the target fill rate, the more safety stock, or the more we're going to try and overcome risk to ensure that that item is in. High value, quick selling items, we will allocate, or the customer will allocate target fill rates against that, and then we will calculate safety stock based on that. So high target fill rate here is obviously an important item. I buy this every 30 days. Your replenishment cycle affects how much inventory you should hold. Your lead time obviously affects that as well. The longer the lead time, the more risk of you being able to get that item if it stocks out, the higher the safety stock calculation should be. But then we're also going in and we're calculating, like I said, those disruptions, that supply chain risk. How do we calculate that? So we go into the purchase order history and we look at the supplier performance. In this case, we can see that there were some early deliveries, there were some late deliveries, and well, everything was in full. So that's great. But on average, even though we're planning against 90 days, we're receiving this item in 132 days on average. So the average lead time through these purchase orders that we've received is 132 days. So we're at risk here for late delivery. So we have an offset of 42 days between those, and our supply risk is about 10%. So we will calculate based on these analysis what the supplier risk is, and we will increase, in this case, we're increasing because the average lead time is longer than the planned lead time. If we're buying thinking it's going to arrive in 90 days, we need to increase the safety stock in case something goes wrong. And the trend has shown us that there is an average longer lead time that we need to take into consideration. The same with forecasting. So we don't just believe that our forecasting engine is going to get it right, because no forecasting engine is going to get it 100% right. So we actually track how the sales history and our forecast worked, and how accurate it was, and what the variances were there. In this case, we're over forecasting a bit. It means we're probably holding a little bit more inventory that we need, and we're actually decreasing the safety stock by 1 day. We're taking 1 day out of the safety stock because we're pretty safe. We're not going to stock out. We're over forecasting on average, and we're pretty safe in taking that out. So we're constantly calculating these risks and moving your inventory up or down based on supply and forecast risk, and your policies and your forecast. If any of those change, we will change the safety stock calculation. Right now, it's 77 days, but it's dynamic. It gets recalculated every day, so that can change. As you saw the model change in the front there, that could change at any time. But we've calculated that. We've calculated your lead time plus safety stock to get to a reorder point. We've calculated your replenishment cycle and your order up to, which is sort of your maximum to get to ideal stock levels. And we're then going to compare it to what your inventory position is now to see whether you should be doing something about this inventory item. Now, I can see here that my stock on hand, overdue demand, if there are any customer orders, we'll see that. Allocated stock, in this case, perhaps repairs that have been allocated to get to an available stock level. We're also looking at inbound orders from the supplier. There's 840 on its way already. So our net stock position is 931. Now, if you look at that 931 and you compare it to the reorder point of 1,085, we're below the reorder point, and therefore we have a recommended order of 345 to get back to our 1276, which is our maximum we'll order up to. Now, that's all fine and dandy with those calculations. You can see over here as well, we have it's a potential stock out. So we're saying not only do we need to order, but we're potentially going to stock out in the future. Now let's have a look at that treatment plan. So we create this treatment plan for every single item at every location. Right now, we can see the stock level over there. As I said, we can see our healthy inventory levels, which is that gray area at the top over there. And then we can see where we're going to stock out at 0 over here. So based on our stock levels now, even though we have 1, 2, 3 purchase orders in play and on their way, and we can see the purchase orders over there and the dates that they're going to arrive, and that's what's in our little plan over here, our treatment plan. We're potentially going to stock out long before that first order arrives, and we've calculated that on that date, the 20th of August, we're going to stock out and potentially lose 162 units worth of sales. Can we do something about that? And as those come in, we're going to recommend an order. You can see the red over there is projected receipts into the future. We have a treatment plan to keep you inside those healthy, optimal stock levels for the rest of the time going forward over there, right? And that's what we're trying to do. So that inventory plan we'll create for every single item in every location. We'll then create orders, and we can see in the order screen, automatically, like that item's gone through its reorder point, it's automatically put onto an order for that supplier. We can see the urgency. We can see purchase currencies, volume and weight if we need to containerize. We could just create the order from there, review that order. It'll have all the information about those items on there, and then at a click of a button, send that through to Acumatica and create a purchase order in Acumatica with optimal items and optimal levels to keep us within those healthy levels. We also want to give you a prognosis on where you're going to go based on the policies that you've set. And we can see over here the inventory levels from here at 8.7 million and what that's going to look like in the future. Further reduction in inventory, further increase in availability rates, further increase in stock turns, and what the planned prescriptions or order plan is for the next 12 months, and whether that aligns with your cash flow projections and your budgets, and when you're going to receive them. We can get into more detail on these things as well. But we also, and this is one of the key things I want to leave you with before we get out of the application, have a AI assistant or a medical assistant that is on a daily basis going to go and look for opportunities. Again, we want to find the best opportunities in your data, and AI allows us to do that for you to be more effective in the business. So this user, we can just add more on here. That's identified 12 more, but it'll basically tell you we've found this item over here in central store. It's tracked to run out of stock on the 29th. If you do nothing, you will lose this many units and that much sales. You have a purchase order already for 200,000 units, but it'll arrive too late. See if you can expedite these orders. And one by one, we'll give you advice on what we see. This one over here is an overdue purchase order. Is it overdue? Should we change the date? Or should we cancel this order? Is it not real? What do we need to do to ensure that we can better plan against this overdue purchase order? And so on and so on and so on. So we have medical assistance for you along the way to ensure that you are kept healthy and that your inventory is as healthy as it possibly can be. All right, that's as much as I'm going to show you. I'm getting a little bit carried away here and I can go on forever. Feel free to reach out to the Answer Company if you want to see more of the application. I just wanted to talk a little bit more about the results. You're free to go and have a look at G2 and see our results there. I think we've just gotten up to 100 customer reviews, and you can read all about the outcomes of these treatment plans that we've done with customers all over the world. And with that, thank you very much for your time. As I said, reach out to the Answer Company if you need anything. If there's any questions that I need to answer, happy to do so.
Thanks, Vaughn, for hosting that. And I can see why you have that lab coat on now. That's very, you're like a surgeon when it comes to inventory. Wow.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, yeah, we're a little bit over time, so we won't have the Q&A. So we'll reach out to our customers directly that have left us a chat. And again, if you guys are interested, you can reach out to sales there, or you can reach out directly to your CSM. So that's either myself or Felipe. So yeah, thanks so much for attending, everyone. And we hope you have a great day. And yeah, thanks, Juan, for hosting this. That was great.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
All right. Thanks, everyone.